50 tips for Deadlock. After you defeat the mid-boss, then the Rejuvenator can only be claimed with a heavy melee attack, and it can get stolen, so have one of your teammates perform a heavy melee on it, and perform a parry right when it drops to prevent any possible steals. You can double crouch while midair to start falling down faster, and this consumes 1 stamina point. Bebop can pre-rev his laser by aiming down sights. This lets you secure and deny souls much easier. In your laning phase, always keep an eye on your enemy team's souls, other than tracking how many items they might have. This also gives you an insight into how many abilities they might have at a first glance. After the first ability unlock, they get their second ability at 400 souls, their third ability at 1500 souls, and their ultimate at 3000. You can also hover over the card in the top right to see everything that they've built, what abilities they have unlocked, and even how they've used their ability points if you hover over each ability. Speaking of souls, after the 10-minute mark, all the souls from defeating a trooper will only be rewarded if the soul orb is destroyed or times out. So if you deny an enemy soul orb, unlike in the early game, they will get absolutely no money. If you want to make sure that the enemy won't deny your farm, punch the trooper minions to kill them. Instead of the orb floating up and forcing you to secure it, the soul goes directly to you without posing any risk of getting stolen. You can reload when climbing, ziplining, and performing a lot more abilities than you actually think. I like to call these one-handed abilities, much like hitting the like button on this video. When clearing jungle camps, try to stand in an angle where you only take damage from one of them at a time, and when you do so, try to bob your aim along the eye as they are shooting. Successfully getting the timing down will let you deal more damage. You can practice this in game or even in the sandbox. You can actually slide in Deadlock. If you hold crouch when moving down a ledge, you will start sliding. If you hold crouch when dashing, you will start sliding. In fact, as long as your character is moving faster than 10 meters per second, which you usually get if you have a sprinting item, then holding crouch will let you start sliding. Anytime you shoot your weapon while sliding, your shots won't consume any of your ammo. As such, when destroying troopers or doing any other objectives, look for ledges or stairways that you can slide on. As you are shooting at your objective, move up and down these ledges while sliding on the way down. This extends your magazine and lets you output a lot more damage in a shorter period of time. Healing troopers will heal you every 6 or so seconds if you're close enough. The amount seems to vary between 40 and 80 health, but it still makes a huge difference, especially when laning. Keeping these units alive and focusing the enemy once when possible will make a massive difference in your lane's health disparity. Practice last hitting soul orbs in the sandbox by going to this fountain. It is worth noting that every soul has a 1 out of 3 chance of spawning to the left, to the right, or in the center. 1 health bar counts for 100 health. And since a quick melee is a little over 100 damage per default, this means that a quick melee will be more than enough to secure those targets at 1 bar or less. You can track not only your own team's ultimates, but even the enemy team's ultimates just by looking at the menu at the top. When the lighting bar is full, then their ultimate will be available. If you click the enemy portraits in the top, then your character will call out that they are missing, usually implied from lane. If you click many times, it will start adding exclamation marks to show that they really are missing. While kills and souls are important, many forget just how big of a difference flex slots can make. You can unlock 1 flex slot by defeating all the enemy tier 1 guardians, another one by defeating one of their walkers, and yet another one by defeating all of their walkers, and finally the last one by destroying one of their shrines. Even if the enemy has more money, if they don't have these flex slots unlocked, their ability to use their souls, their money, will be significantly capped, and they might actually end up having less valuable loadouts than you do. Not to mention that by destroying all of these objectives, you usually will have more map control, which will let you make better decisions. When riding a zipline, by hitting crouch to get off of it, you actually keep your zipline momentum for a few seconds instead of slowing down like you would if you jumped. Combine this with a powerful ability like most ultimates, and quickly glide into the enemy team without them being able to do much about it. Make it a habit to parry enemies that go for heavy melee, because the heavy melee deals significant damage, especially in the early game, and a parry will end up blocking them and even stunning them for a considerable amount of time. This is especially useful when you play against enemies who love punching, like Abrams. You can practice your parry reflexes by hopping into the firing range and checking out the gym. This bot will do nothing but punch you all day. You can ping any of your abilities by clicking your scroll wheel while hovering over them. This tells your teammates that you don't have an ability, that it's on cooldown, or that it's ready and that you want to use it. If an enemy trooper has a pale red health bar, this means that they can be last hit by a melee attack. If you want to play it safe, you can also go for a a heavy melee attack. Not only do they do more damage, so you can last hit them even if the health bar isn't pale, and not only do they have a longer range, but they also deal area of effect damage around your target, which means it affects any enemies nearby it. This can let you clear entire waves, or at the very least, last hit them in one hit. If you want to last hit an enemy but they are too far away, then you can dash or dash jump over to them and then hit them. That being said, depending on when you do it, in most cases you will not be able to get the finisher before the dash animation finishes, which means you miss the soul. So if you don't have enough time, start a slide on the way over and then let go of the slide key. This lets you punch immediately instead of waiting. While some rooftops have these metal things that deal damage to you as you stand on top of them, this doesn't mean that you can't stay there for a short period of time, either to rotate or to get an off angle or even start a combo with them, like with Lash. This might be preference, but change your self-cast settings in controls to double tap or to hold. This lowers the amount of clicks that you need to do significantly whenever you need to use an ability or item on yourself. Speaking of self-casting, in almost all cases, especially if you're in an even or even a losing lane, consider buying yourself a healing right for 500 souls. This self-heal will give you massive heal every minute, which lets you stay in lane without having to go all the way back. Some heroes can actually cast abilities mid-ultimate. A good example of this would be Ivy. Also, you can stop most channeled ultimates by hitting the parry key as well, which lets you react if an enemy is coming at you with a heavy melee as well. In the early game, be aware that most, if not all, meta builds have several 500 soul items that make up their core. Because of this, make sure to always go back and purchase every 500 souls, depending on your build. Also remember that the enemy too will want to go back every 500 souls to purchase as well, and this might present you with free damage on them, and it might also mean that they have a power spike once they return to lane. And if they don't go back to purchase, this means that they don't have the same power spike that you have, and you have an advantage that you should press. Destroying the double guardians in a lane will give you permanent zipline speed boost on that very lane. You can still use the zipline boost to go even further beyond. Not everyone still knows that these vending machines actually give you free souls. By punching them, you will get a little bit of souls every punch, and once you break them, you'll get a whole bunch of them. Keep in mind that each punch deals damage to you as well, and after testing, I can say that using heavy punches will be faster than using light ones, and you will take less damage. When playing heroes with finishers, such as Vindicta, there will usually be some type of hint when your ultimate or your ability can finish an enemy. As for Vindicta, the enemies will start to light up when you aim down your scope, and they can be one-shot by her sniper shot. Keep in mind that this only applies to a fully charged sniper shot, so if their health is high enough, then a quick scope might still not be enough to finish them off, despite them glowing up. Breaking these boxes and urns have chances of giving you additional souls and permanent stat boosts. You don't need to shoot them to break them. Meleeing, dashing, or sliding through them works just as well, if not better. 7's ultimate only deals damage to enemies within range and within line of sight. You can actually break line of sight in ways where you can still see parts of his hitbox, which lets you deal damage to him without taking any back. Another great counter, which actually is a great counter for any of these meaningful ultimates, are items like Curse or Knockdown. These items will interrupt any channeled abilities and stop them from casting more abilities or even stun them respectively. In almost all cases, there will be an active item that will help you out of a difficult situation, and on their own, that one item can completely shut down the enemies from doing what they want to do. I'm going to be covering some more important counters in an upcoming video, so subscribe to keep out for that. Making a crosshair in Deadlock is a bit scuffed at the moment, but thankfully there is a third-party crosshair generator just for that. Just play around with the settings and then copy the config and paste it into the game's console, which you can open by hitting F7. If you want to check it out, I'll link it in the comments. If somebody picks up the soul urn, they can still be picked up by Ivy's ultimate and airdropped safely on the other side. If you are going for a soul urn run, keep in mind that you can't actually use any of your abilities as you're holding the urn. That being said, you can still activate your abilities beforehand, in which case they're going to work just fine. The Cosmic Veil is a one-way window. If it's matte, then you cannot see through to the other side, but anyone on the other side can see you clearly. If an enemy is on the matte side, it will actually block any of line of sight abilities that don't work through walls unless you have line of sight, such as 7's ultimate. Ivy can pick up teammates that are mid-channeling ultimates, in which case the ultimates will keep going. That being said, they will see a significant damage decrease as long as they're being carried, so you're best off picking them up and repositioning them somewhere safe rather than flying them around. If you don't know what to build, then you might be happy to know that you can actually browse public builds by hitting the Browse Builds button in the Buy menu corner. These public builds are voted on by the community and will point you in the right direction. But, make sure you take them with a grain of salt, as the most liked ones are usually outdated and not necessarily optimal. So make adjustments as you see fit, and I'm going to be covering builds in the near future, so stay tuned for that. Shiv's secondary fire actually boops him backwards a little bit. You can use this for additional momentum to slide or clear ground, or even boost yourself up a little bit higher if you're jumping. Staying aware of what's going on in the game at any time is so important, and it starts with you looking at the minimap. A good rule of thumb is that you want to look at the minimap every few seconds, or I guess right after you secured a soul or a wave. You want to be aware of where all the enemies are at all times to stop yourself from getting ganked when you least expect it, or maybe you notice that you can go for a push or take an objective without being contested. When going for a dash jump, which looks like this, one way of knowing the timing for when you hit the jump key is whenever your stamina bar turns blue. You can actually draw on the map. Viscous ability Puddle Punch counts as a melee attack, meaning it stacks with any melee boosting items and also will last hit enemies without dropping any souls as any other melee attack would. And finally, you will start hitting a lot more shots once you realize that your bullets do not appear magically in the middle of your screen like in any first-person shooter, and that they instead travel from where your character is shooting towards the middle of your screen. If anything like an enemy gets in the way between these 2 points, then they will be hit by the shot on the way. If you want to hit more shots and just aim better, make sure to check out the video on the screen where I go more in depth with mastering your aim in Deadlock. And of course, a huge shout out to SC7639, who is my first and only Patreon. If you guys want to enjoy ad-free, get early access to scripts and videos, check out the link, I'll put it in the description. But anyways, that was it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and peace out.